that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon. Everyone knows that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon.
Hi, thanks, Jelly, for inviting me to join you on this venture that you've been pursuing. My name is Kyle Winkler, and I work as the owner-operator of Zero Waste Wrangler, a small hauler for compostables and recyclables in the City of Pittsburgh for both businesses and residents.
Any relation to Henry Winkler?
It's funny.
Does everybody ask you that?
It comes and goes. Funny. I remember way back in the day when I was a kid going with my mom to the bank, and the bank teller asked her, so I was probably like 12 or something. And they're like, "Henry, are you related to Henry Winkler?" And of course, my mom said no.
Your mom went, "Hey,"
and I was like, I didn't know who Henry Winkler was. So, and then and for the longest time, it kind of disappeared. And then it seems like recently it has come back around again, where people go, "Are you related to Henry Winkler?"
He's had a sort of
resurgence.
Resurgence. Yeah, he's really great. I actually had
director, actor.
Yeah, when I broke my foot back in 2021, my orthopedic guy, he reminded me of Henry Winkler. I don't know why, but it was really funny. He just
as the Fonz, or just Henry Winkler the guy?
I don't know, because I don't know the guy.
Yeah,
but but he wasn't like the cool Fonz guy, but he was just like kind of like what I imagined Henry Winkler to be. But his voice kind of, I don't know what, I think it was his voice and a little bit about it, but yeah, it was just weird. And I was just like feeling like the Fonz was my
orthopedist.
Yeah, it was great. Anyway,
yeah,
so we digress. So you have a compost business, a compost retrieval business? Okay.
Hauling, yeah. So
yes.
I try to, not because I'm trying to be modest or anything like that, because it is a daily grind to make sure that materials keep flowing, but to honor the fact that there have been services, there has been infrastructure in Southwest PA for many, many years, in the form of a company which you know well.
Shout out to Carla.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
AgRecycle is the reason that I exist, both in their approach to hauling, being large scale, and their willingness to offer me contracted services for the actual composting of the material. This could go into part of the evolution of why I'm here where I am, specifically in this business, if you want me to go down that road. Starting with, so the previous company, Steel City Soils, Jeff Newman, who you know, Rebecca Kiernan, who you worked with at the city, Jeff had this idea, which is not a bad idea, and which is being done at other, maybe a smaller level in these other companies, other haulers, is to be vertically integrated, and certainly that is the ideal in terms of collection, processing, and then sales of composting, and that's what AgRecycle does. So they collect the materials, they collect a fee. When they collect it, they process the materials, and then they market it to golf courses, organic farms, to bulk nursery sales, the finished product. And that's what Jeff Newman and Steel City Soils did prior to me acquiring their commercial route.
And he did it all on a bicycle.
No.
He did a lot on a bicycle?
No. I don't think he did.
Am I thinking of the pedal pierogies?
Yeah, well, maybe pedal pierogi. Oh, that's right. Holy crap, that's a little side.
Jeff
business.
is on my list now. Yeah, I got to talk to it because he's had so many different.
Yeah, that was that pedal pierogi thing. I think that was a side gig shenanigans. So no, this was trucks, vans, and using a small piece of property in Braddock and managing to get to, maybe 65 tons a year, which I think in my mind was the amount before he started to kind of have to move in a different direction in terms of processing, because it was a lot of volunteer driven, with a goal towards moving towards maybe some sort of automation or containerization or aerated static piles, forced aeration, so you could get faster production and throughput. And then there's the sales on the back end. So when one person, one man, one woman, whatever, is trying to do all of that and rely, somewhat, the business model relies on the sales. When you're not making the sales of material on the back end, then you're constantly behind the eight ball. So you're collecting at a loss, you're processing, which is something you can't, who do you charge the processing to? It should be included in your pricing,
on one end or the other.
Yeah, it has to be somewhere, or you're making it up on the back end. But if you don't ever sell anything on the back end and you're not charging it on the front end, then you're just continue to lose money and drop, pull your hair out. So I just said, I looked at what he was doing when I realized he was done with it. Mm-hmm. At the point where I was kind of like, hey, thinking about leaving the city or being offered the opportunity to leave the city or whatever. Was the best way to say that.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
I was volunteering basically for Jeff and just driving around in a truck doing his route in his pickup truck with a bed cover and 18-gallon things and getting a sense of what it would take to do it. And then I just, once he said, I'm out of here, I said, okay, let me see what I can get response-wise from your customers. I'm just going to do hauling and I'll work with whoever. At that time I was going to haul out to a farm. I had lots of time. My time was worth not a lot because I had lots of it and not a lot of customers. So I was driving it up to New Galilee. But anyway, so I just said, I'm going to do hauling and work with somebody else to process the material. And that's kind of where the business model changed. And that's where I am today. So that's why I require or value, going from what he had at 65 tons and, pulling his hair out at 65 tons. And now in 2022, I did 255 tons of materials. So that's all the customers, most of the customers that didn't go out of business. Some of them
during pandemic.
Or just, prior to pandemic, just they were whatever. It doesn't things come and go.
Happen.
Things come and go. And then, grew that customer base, added breweries, so, like Trace. And, that brings your tonnage up. So you get a lot of more material that you need to manage. So some of that goes to feeding pigs and most of it goes to composting and via AgriCycle. And I don't have to drive it all the way down to Washington County, which would be another cost. Which would probably put me out of business.
So where's the site?
I have 2 rented dumpsters, so I just utilize their services.
Oh, gotcha.
So I say, hey,
I see. So you're a middleman.
Yeah, the transfer. So, I don't want to call it a transfer site because anyway. So
before we get into the how you got here, just a little bit of. Can you just give your pitch to how this is beneficial for businesses?
It's a hard one to say because it's small business. Is very difficult, and anything that's additional cost can be seen as a detriment to a business. So if your small business is trying to actually reach some sort of or attain some sort of or follow some sort of code beyond just profit driven, then I can help some businesses or all businesses attain those environmental goals. In some cases, it's more convenient or it's cost neutral. So if you're so small, it could be cost neutral. If you're required to get a commercial hauling service and the majority of what you produce is compostable, like a coffee shop, then you could just pay me versus getting a trash service through one of the big haulers. You might as well. It's the same thing. I provide roll carts. I pick them up. I give them a empty, rinsed, relined container, and I take the old one with me, and so it just keeps moving around. And some customers, like my brewery customers, their material is very highly volatile. It can get smelly, stinky fast. And so that, as a business benefit, to not have that stuff or have a more responsive operator or hauler to make sure, okay, regular communication, okay, this is when the stuff's going to be ready. I'll have it within 24 hours, ideally, or when it comes out, if it works out, within hours after it comes out. So now it's going, right up to the farm as fresh as possible. That helps with keeping the smells down and helps with the value of the product too. So spent grains specifically as a material source. But then, some of the people they're just happy to do the right thing. And that's their motivation. Sometimes there's a benefit. Sometimes environmentally there's always going to be a benefit. Other operational benefits may or may not be there depending on what type of material that they have.
So you're kind of depending on people to have a altruistic desire to do the right thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I guess that's what altruistic means, but yeah.
To do the right thing.
Yeah.
I guess to the degree that they think that that's the right thing to do. Yeah. I don't begrudge any business that's just trying to stay in business. It gets into that question of, and I think this comes across sometimes in employment in wages. It's like, well, maybe if you can't pay people wages, then maybe this shouldn't be in business. Maybe this is not a business. This is not a thing that should exist. Maybe that same, at some point, will trickle down to, well, if you can't do right by the environment, maybe you shouldn't be in business. That's what I like
Yeah,
to think. I don't want to make people guilty about it because sometimes you're struggling. We're all on a personal journey. I'm not.
We're all on our personal evolution,
Exactly.
for sustainability and food and everything else, and that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this, because it's not about making people feel guilty that they have certain habits, but about like being an example of how to just think a little different, a different perspective on things. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
cool.
And I will admit right now that on tape, on tape, nobody uses tape, that I eat meat. Just because
this is an 8-track we're recording.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that is the most sleekest.
But what are you admitting?
Oh, sorry. I just kind of threw it in there. I was like, and then see if it got buried.
Nope.
I eat meat. I know that it's probably one of the easiest. Now I don't know if it's easy because for me, I'm a business owner. I'm constantly moving. I sometimes just need to get food wherever I can, and can't always be. I don't have the time. Anyway, so I eat meat. Even though it probably would be very good for the environment that I didn't eat meat.
I haven't always been this passionate about organic waste, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking this isn't the most highly profitable line of work. There are probably other things you could do to make larger money, but you're doing this because you believe in this mission. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong.
If this is a very highly profitable business, I would love to know about that. But tell me about how you got here and how you came to this business.
I think from a purely work perspective, I find this to be, if I can maintain, sometimes it's hard to maintain the perspective, but it's very satisfying to be able to develop customer relationships, have customers come back to me after years of conversation, provide them services, and see the statements that I have said in the past when working for an environmental nonprofit at Pennsylvania Resources Council or at the City of Pittsburgh, consulting with people to say, if you do this thing, then good things will happen. But now I get to see it happen. I get to see 4 years of data accumulated, collections, and go, wow, we're like that, this Tina's or something like that, 16, actually, I'm trying to remember the numbers, but this is like relatively small amounts every week for 52 weeks a year, for 4 years, and now you're at 16,000 pounds of diverted material, and you go, oh wow, that's a real number versus like, oh, if you do this thing, you get 100 pounds, but you have to keep doing it in order for it to be meaningful. And now I get to see that, and I think that's...
And you get to share that with your clients too, and they must be so excited about that because you're tracking it. They don't have to.
They don't have to track it. I think that I could probably be a little more forward or be more proactive in reporting or congratulating them because I'm starting to understand again with that versus just sending a report to somebody and say, good luck with these recommendations I've never had an experience with. I just took them out of a DEP playbook or something, or PRC's rehashed reports that we've sent to other companies and realized that, ongoing education, ongoing engagement, ongoing enthusiasm about doing the right thing is a challenge. And you've got employee turnover, and then you've got things that you've forgotten that you did 2 years ago when you first started the program that you now need to do again because your staff has turned over 100%, or you got a new manager and whatever. And one person was actually holding up the entire program and they left and you didn't really realize what value they brought to that specific aspect. I mean, there's other aspects of the business itself, but this specific, waste management, good example, there was a staff member at East End Food Co-op who constantly cleaned up the post-consumer collection container, which is basically available to anybody at the co-op staff, anybody just passing by. They would always clean up the compostables. And I always thought, when I first started the program, this is amazing. People at the East End Food Co-op really get it. They just look at the signs and they know where to put the stuff. It's amazing. And then I realized somebody was sorting the entire time. And then that person left, and now I'm forced to tackle with, or deal with, how do I go back to the customer and say, hey, this is a problem. Anyway, I don't know, kind of go off on a tangent.
That's fantastic. I was just thinking, when you were talking about the data and talking about like when people reach certain milestones in their collection, maybe you can have like little stickers printed up that they could put on their windows of their doors of their business. So like,
love the window stickers.
50 tons saved from the landfill.
It definitely could be better.
That would be marketing for you too. I'm saying this would be like really great and have a little QR beep.
Yeah.
Could be like, I want to do that too.
It's also tough in the marketing world to be like, what does zero waste look like from a marketing perspective, which is essentially about, I don't know if it's creating trash. I have really bad kind of perspective or feelings about or experiences with marketing in general. And so it just seems like there's a lot of collateral that's generated that goes into the world, and with what benefit, I don't know. And sometimes it's truly plastic stuff that cannot be recycled, it can't be composted. I just did a direct mailer campaign, and somebody was like, hey, why did you do that? That's going to create a bunch of trash. I was like, I don't know how else to get. I don't know what. I was just.
You just can't win, Kyle.
They're like, why'd you? Like, you can't do that. I'm like, I did it. I don't know.
Email creates carbon footprint as well.
You got these servers that are being stored. Like, wow. So am I going to go door to door? Well, that's kind of, that would probably work better, but permitting and the time, and so anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge as far as what is the thing that is going to make them feel valued, and it's also going to transmit down to the people on the ground who actually do the work. So there's the managers, or the owner or whatever, and does that trickle down to the person who at 1 a.m. in the morning has to take this bag out and then decide, am I going to take the time to put it in the right container? If there's a little piece, is there an aluminum can in there? Am I going to take the time to take the aluminum can and put it in the right thing and put the compost on the compost?
And
at
how
1
much
a.m. in the
more
morning
icky stuff do I want to touch after this freaking day?
Yeah, this day I'm done with it. I want to be done. I want to go home. And so
I'm going to wish cycle it and throw it all in here.
Yeah, so I guess those are things that I'm still challenged with or think about and wonder how does it ultimately affect. So if I give it to somebody, and how often does that goodwill filter down to the people who are actually doing the work at the very base level of putting stuff in the container or sorting the table from the table, sorting the materials, so that they're on the back end, on the back of the house, actually sorted correctly, so that when I collect it, I'm not sitting there sorting through, or sending bad things to recycle.
And it's not like you're just dealing with the plastic recycling and the metal recycling. You're dealing with the goo. The goo is your world, so you're picking out other stuff, and then what do you do with that?
Yep.
That's
a huge headache.
Everybody else is just like, get rid of the goo, but that's your thing. Okay. Anyway, so you mentioned PRC. Yeah, I mean that's what it is. When you get to it, where'd you grow up?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Cool. So you and Rebecca have that East Coast thing in common.
Yeah, I forgot that we had that in common.
Yeah.
How could I forget that with her accent?
She said something about water the other day, and we were all just like, "Whoa, New York comes out." Yeah. Anyway, so you grew up in Jersey. Mm-hmm. And then you went to do college, or were your parents hippies?
Not at all.
I always imagine your parents would have been hippies, and how you turned out to be this recycling guy.
That's funny. No, actually, I'm not sure where. And it's my motivations are probably more towards the obsessive compulsive versus actual environmental. I just see that this doesn't make sense. Landfills don't make sense, especially when there are valuable materials to be derived from products, and I'd like to see that go around and around and around. It's kind of like a little puzzle for me, more than it is. Yeah, there's environmental benefit, but that's just because that's the way the world should work. I think it's like that's the way the natural world works. Why are we so why can't we just figure this out? How to do it the way that nature does it versus the way that's lazy, basically. It's like,
Did you grow up in more of like an urban environment?
Suburban New Jersey.
Suburban,
yeah.
Okay.
We drove everywhere. It was terrible. I spent a lot of time in the car. It was just for fun. Because that's what we do in Jersey. You're like, we're just going to drive 45 minutes to a diner and drink coffee or a hot chocolate and maybe order a donut or something, and then and then go to the mall or go to a movie or go to the not the pitch and putt, but the driving range, try to hook the balls into the Motel 8 or something like that, and parking lot. It was like, we were bored. And there wasn't a lot to do in our downtown area, not walkable, not easily rideable, although I do remember riding my bike a lot. But so anyway, yeah. So that my dad worked for chemical companies, and then he was doing
Jersey, of course.
Well, prior to that, he was New York State. Anyway, there's Hooker Chemicals. It's anyway.
Well, Jersey has like the most. That's where they make the flavor for foods.
We did have
it's in New Jersey. Like there's a whole bunch of factories there that do food flavor science.
We had one just down the street from us, which so you go by and sometimes a bit like bubble gum or strawberries, but yeah, it was not a very like pretty facility. It was just like kind of industrial smokestacks and weird shaped things that were for industrial processes, and it just didn't look like it wasn't like Wonka chocolate factory or something.
Yeah.
Like happy colors or something. It just smelled nice when you drove by. You're like, oh, that's weird.
But somehow you connected with nature and with natural systems.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. I think it was. I liked working in the garden, with the plants, growing things, shaping kind of the yard, mowing, whatever. That's not really. It's part of setting the stage for something else. But
well, and it's what you knew. That was working in the yard, and it was probably one of your chores. You probably were mandated to do that.
Yep. Mow the lawn, weed whack, and do the trim the hedges, the privet, and all that. Blah blah blah.
The dreaded privet.
Yes, it's whatever. It's a thing. It's a border plant, but
it's
overused.
The suburbs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so horticulture was probably my touch point to the environment itself, plants, understanding plants, identifying plants, then going through high school, Boy Scouts, being in nature, trips on the Delaware.
Oh, shout out to Boy Scouts. Yeah.
Yeah, I had hopefully the best of the best. Yeah, definitely I think was formative in terms of connecting with nature, the natural world, hiking, and then going through high school, I don't know if we really had that much of the biology, basic sciences, which were interesting, of course, or for me.
So does your brain work well around math and science and that sort of thing? Is that where
I can do it.
Okay.
Math maybe not as much.
Yeah, that's not mine either.
Calc. I kind of left once we got into calculus and differentials and stuff like that. I was like, I took the physics that was for regular folks, physics, not the calculus, where you really need to focus in or get to exact outcomes and predictions.
It took me 3 times to pass Algebra 1, so just shut up with your physics.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry. So you got a little more skill there than I do, but so you understand it, and that is good. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I did have a good crew of people I grew up with who helped in that. They were excited about it, made me excited about it, wanted to hang out, talk about.
Like friends?
Friends.
Okay.
Yeah, friends. Not teachers too,
like
I guess.
Peers, peers versus
like
mentors.
Peers.
Nice. Oh, that's great. So you had a bunch of nerds.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. We embraced that, or to the degree that it meant anything at that level, I don't even know. But yeah, we hung out with nerds and talked about nerdy things. And I think some of them were more nerdy than I was, but which again helps with the.
And we mean that in the most loving sense of the term nerds.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least I do.
Yeah, so Oregon State forestry, I thought was going to be the direction, without really knowing what forestry was, and then horticulture itself too. Even hort science, you get in, start to, which is good, I guess, because if you're trying to train humans to be productive members of society, there is the general understanding of sciences, and then there's the practical understanding of sciences. Which I kind of was turned off. I didn't want so much at my college experience. And I just went through this whole thing with my niece because she's going to college here in Montana, the Grizzlies. Hopefully I got that right. And forestry was about diameter at breast height. How can you determine what the economic value is of a stand of trees, what your expected income could be, and then...
And you're talking about cutting down the trees and not economic value.
Yeah. Well, but I think there's also, if you care about your economic, you can also tie in a care for the ecology because everything grows better when you care about the things that in which they grow. You can't just grow trees and sand and hope to get anything valuable out of it, or without a huge amount of cost. So there is some environmental awareness and consciousness associated with that approach, but it's certainly not what maybe most people would think or would want. The clear cutting versus selective versus no cutting, and then how it is in the broader sense of ecology and environmental services. If you're talking about beyond just making toilet paper or books or whatever it is, or lumber to build houses. So anyway, that was that, and then so I kind of moved out of that into horticulture, thinking that I could just get more broader understanding or in a field that I cared about. But then again, there's also, I remember specifically going like, I don't want to be a greenhouse operator that has to sit there and stress about counting my Easter lily bloom petals so that I know when my Easter lilies are going to bloom, because I know that the value of them 3 days prior to Easter is going to be this X number. And if I miss that window, they're now marked off 50%, and I've already spent all this money, and I could calculate my outcome. So there was like a whole running a nursery, running greenhouses for production of things that people buy every day and don't really think about what it takes to make them happen. So I kept moving to more and more broader.
But the stress of you're interacting with nature because you love nature, but you have to manipulate nature and control nature because your monetary worth is based on your ability to control nature or predict nature, and that's so freaking stressful. And I can imagine that. And you're just like, no.
I guess I didn't want that relationship yet.
Seems like you're right, that relationship.
Yeah.
It's about that relationship, and that just totally like when you start to, people always say like, if you could get paid for what you love, but if you love to cook and then you go work in a restaurant, you're just like, oh my God, I never want to cook again.
Yeah.
Because you're just like so burnt out from it. I mean, some people have a really good experience. I'm not saying that, but like sometimes it does get stressful because you're like then forced to do it, and it makes it not fun anymore.
Yeah, and you start to make maybe the thing that you love, you can't do exactly the way you want to do it, and you start to lessen your stringent quality. Sometimes you just want to do something and do it really well, but not for any monetary value. And so I think that was where I was. I don't know how that fits into my understanding of the environment, but maybe that was kind of what I wanted from my college experiences, of a more or a less job specific or job like focus. Like, even though that's an important part of the college experience for many people, especially the guys at engineering, I was always like, that sounds terrible. Like, it's just, how can I make me money?
Well, I think that's a lot of that is capitalism, and that's America specific. It's the United States specifically, because I went to school for fine art, my undergrad, and part of that, like I was telling you, I went to Czechoslovakia. And over there, when I told people that I was an artist, they'd say, that's great, thank you. Thank you for making such beautiful stuff and making the world and perceiving the world the way you do. But here, when I would tell people I was an art student, they'd be like, what are you going to do with that? Like, there was nobody had a different reaction than, how are you going to make money at that?
Yeah.
And so that's capitalism is the problem. You wanted capitalism out of your horticulture experience. Yeah. It's tough.
But that led me to an environmental science degree. So I guess that's the point, is that eventually, once I decided I didn't care about maintaining grass for golf courses, figuring out the feeding, growing, and applications, year round, that was turf and landscape, or making yards look prettier using a very strict, palette of plants which are available coast to coast. You're like, why are the same plants? You just get the same plants. Every freaking nursery you can go to them, it's basically the same plants. You're like, why? This is crazy. I mean, except in the desert, of course. That's not going to find privet. Nobody's selling privet.
I bet somebody tried.
Bald and burlapped privet in Tucson, Arizona. Maybe. That would be terrible. Yeah, so I eventually got into just environmental sciences generally, so I got to take more like policy, history of, and I could think more broader appreciation for the environmental sciences and its position in the world and the sciences around that, I guess. I don't know.
So how'd you end up in Pittsburgh?
Oh, that was that. So that's a family company. I worked for 2 years after college in a company in Oregon, which didn't seem to be going anywhere, doing compost tea production and doing landscape maintenance, which was more or less just mowing lawns at the.
That's maintaining the landscape.
Maintaining the landscape with a brush hog and a weed whacker, yeah. And one Montessori school on this 243-acre property, which used to be an old state mental institution. So it was a weird job. Did that for 2 years. Didn't see where my job was going. Family business out in Pittsburgh, Coriopolis, doing wastewater permitting and some sales. And so that's kind of what led me over to here, and then eventually to leave there to find an environmental nonprofit, do some consulting for businesses, waste reduction, recycling, special events, zero waste special events. Then to the city, thinking that I would have a bigger impact, more control, more direction to change the system holistically, and then realizing that was not the case going to my current position. That was a short history.
You deal in organic waste and a lot of food waste, but what is your relationship with food? You eat it.
I eat food, and I
air, water, food. You need those to survive.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, my eating life is terrible. I think that it's get it where I can right now while I struggle through kind of some growing pains, which is trying to get customer base high enough, which means time on route, collecting and dumping, cleaning and returning containers, maintaining relationships, while I show economically that I can bring on more people, staff, helpers, either on the truck or drivers, because everything costs money depending on what level they interact with the business. So if they're just doing admin, that's the cheapest. But does that help me? Yeah, it does. But to what degree? Is that a full-time position? Not really. A helper? Okay, cool. And now your cost of, anyway, I'm trying to get out too far for the food. The food question is,
your business is taking over your life right
exactly.
now, but
so it's like,
you have a horticulture background. Do you grow food currently,
horticulture wasn't about food. It was, like I said, the very specific woody landscape plants that decorate and sometimes provide zero value to the environment, both food-wise and to the animals. I mean, they hold the soil together, and they sometimes have a texture or color palette that is pleasing to designers of landscapes. And that's all they.
It's even worse than we think.
Yeah, it's
the considerations are not about the wildlife, not about the environment, not about the people.
I think that's mainstream landscaping. It's not. It's about some very, very old ideas, and I'm sure you've seen them. You can drive around and look and go, yeah, that's pretty much the same meatball hedges or meatball plants in the front yard. They've been trimmed down. You never seen. I didn't know what a U looked like until senior year in high school. And I was like, oh, that's what a U looks like? I've never seen a U in its natural form because nobody lets it grow in its natural, because it's crazy. It's like a weird,
Yeah, there are some nice ones in Highland Park, actually, in the neighborhood. They're really neat, yeah.
Wow. It takes you back and you go, oh my God, that's okay. You have to have a different approach. You have a different placement, you have a different interaction with it versus putting it right under your front windows, where you cannot let it be wild because it would just grow through your house. It would just get huge and it'd be crazy. Yeah, my experience is not with growing anything of, like you said, wildlife value or value to eat. Well, if it's usually when there's some overlap with, if it's valuable to wildlife, then there's some sort of product like that humans can eat as well sometimes. But that's not my shtick. Was not learning those things, unfortunately.
Have you grown food though?
It's been very lazy, if it has ever been at all. So at one point, I've had that experience where I bought a bunch of heirloom tomatoes for my sister, and we threw them in the yard, and with very little effort other than watering, we had like this crazy amounts of tomatoes, and I was like, that was amazing. But yeah, my current position, my yard, in my backyard, because it's a wild mess plus time.
Yeah.
I don't have any time. I don't feel like I have any time. I don't dedicate time to this. And then there's deer, groundhogs, and everything else that you'd have to adjust, figure out how to fence off, and to order to produce anything of value, or to get it before they get it, just before everything looks great, and then it's gone. Because
I've been thinking about different plants and potatoes. Deer, groundhogs, I don't necessarily like potatoes.
okay,
Thinking about if I ever am able to do it someday, adopting a lot
okay,
and filling with cardboard boxes and potatoes growing with straw.
okay.
A little compost in the bottom to
Yeah.
give it some nourishment, and then straw.
Mhm.
And then just keep putting straw on it, and then just cut the box open, you have potatoes.
Okay.
It's the theory. I was going to do it this year, but I didn't have time, and now I've got time. So, but it's too late. So maybe next year we'll try that method.
Because potatoes seem like one of our least expensive things to get at the store, and get them whenever you really want them. How do you feel about? It's a lot of work, it seems. That's what I always think. I go, oh my god, I could just. Oh.
Yeah, no.
Potatoes.
I mean, there is that fine line, but I think there are some companies some local farms that are growing some really nice heirloom potatoes, and they do have a better flavor.
Okay.
They definitely taste better. And you're right, I could buy them, but they're like $4 a pound when you buy them. Maybe not $4 a pound. Gosh, how much were they? Can't remember. Scratch that. But they're definitely more expensive. But you can buy potatoes in the store that are cheaper, but. Growing your own. And have you ever grown potatoes? Have you ever dug up potatoes?
Nope. I got a general sense of what it's about, but
It's just so magical because everything's dead.
Okay.
It's just dead. It's just dead, just dirt. And then you put your fork in the ground, and then you turn over the soil, and there's all these amazing, beautiful potatoes.
Okay.
It's just so magical. The first time I did it was at a farm out in McDonald, PA, which I thought was very appropriate, Old McDonald. And I was digging potatoes for the food bank as a volunteer thing with my job. And yeah, it was so magical.
Well, so you're kind of like a gleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So the farmer said, I'm not going to harvest it. You can come and grab whatever you want.
Yeah, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce and the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, and we got a group of people together and went out and volunteered. We all drove out there and dug potatoes together. It was a very good team building experience. I loved it. Since a lot of your customers and your clients are food businesses, do you just like eat while you're there? Do you get food from them, or do you like stop by and get like Sheetz hot dogs? Which
Oh hell no! Yeah, no.
my husband's a big fan.
Oh, no,
I think
that
he's
sounds
a
like
bigger
crazy.
fan of the get-go hot dogs. He's got a whole philosophy about gas station hot dogs. It's a thing.
I won't say that I've never had a gas station hot dog, but I do like to patronize my businesses that use my services. So whether it's getting some fresh to go, like a sandwich at the East End Food Co-op, Ada on Wednesdays is usually a place I like to get their panini sandwiches at the Bloomfield, I guess it is, or Garfield location. And so there are like strategic spots. They don't always overlap with actual meal times or dinner times, but I try to plan. Millville Market is a great place. It's at the end of my route on Wednesday. So if I've missed Ada, then I can hit them up for just anything you can get at a grocery store and eat before I dump the truck, so that I have fuel to get me through the rest of the night, or just something if I'm ahead of schedule, then I can have it for after when I'm done. So I have it for dinner later. So that's always a nice thing. Yeah, try to. The ones where it's appropriate. Not everybody's fast food, or something where you could take a sandwich to go. So without ordering ahead of time. So it doesn't always work out, but I definitely try to as much as possible. Coffee, drinks, food.
Do you like spicy food?
I don't know. I mean, I do like spicy food, but I'm not sure what your level of spicy is, because I've certainly been, my first experience with understanding the depth of spiciness, at least in the Pittsburgh market, was going to a Thai restaurant and realizing that the scale was all completely different.
Thai food.
I was like,
Thai food is different.
Oh, okay.
Thai
So
food.
maybe we're more alike than.
Thai food is a whole other animal, and also like when you're talking about like Indian spices versus like Mexican spices, like totally different. And you can build a tolerance for one and not the other.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm open to. I'm spicy. Spicy curious.
That's good. I like that.
Oh, I love sushi.
Okay.
I don't know what that go to on a regular basis. The Korean street food truck, that and Haskell's. So that's sometimes I frequent the food trucks. So some of my businesses do not have food service, but they do have food services that are at and supporting the economic viability of the businesses I go to, the breweries specifically. So if there are, like I said, the Haskell's is great, and I can't even remember the name of the Korean street food truck, but I really like their corn dogs, the Korean corn dog. I just know the truck is there sometimes, and then I'm lucky when it is. Like, oh, yeah. And I get basically everything on the menu. I get the corn dog, I get their vegetable sushi, and then they have like a chicken rice, not kimchi, but pickled vegetable. Anyway, it's good.
In New Jersey, in the chemical flavored capital of the world.
That's weird. It's gonna be a weird painting, a weird.
Yeah. Well, you saw all the industrial stuff and you smelled it yourself.
That one, It was one little plant in this one little town, but yeah, Newark and all that is different, chemical refineries and yeah.
So it sounds like you grew up in the suburbs, but it is New Jersey, so it's an old sort of place. So it's not like a new suburb, a new development or anything. So there had to be some like interesting restaurants or places that you would go. Any interesting?
I think because we were, anything that would have been foodie related would have been driven by my parents, because as a kid I didn't have a lot of disposable income, and people say, well, you probably went to the beach all the time. It's like, we didn't really go to the beach. We had family in Michigan, so we would, if there was time over the summer, we would just go to Michigan. And so there, we didn't go to the beach. And people go, well, what about the city of Pittsburgh, or New York City?
Yeah.
Well, you were right there. I'm like, yeah, it was scary, like for a kid, but to drive in, and always feeling like as a
take the train.
Figure out the train schedule. Like anyway, there were things that, and then once you got there as a kid, I was like, wow, we could walk around and get harassed by, people who could identify us as being basically like greenhorns. Hey, check this out. We got this thing, whatever. We'd shake it down for money. I don't know, just weirdest things that I didn't have the crew that wanted to, or the crew that knew how to spend a lot of time without a lot of extra money.
Yeah.
Just hang out in New York City, go, well, that was fun,
Yeah. Well, I love the story of how you got to where you are, and it's fascinating. Thanks so much for meeting with me and having some tea and coffee and in this great ship room. What's it? The cool ship room.
Cool ship room.
Cool ship room with Trace. Thanks, Trace. And thanks, Kyle Winkler. I appreciate you talking with me.
Thank you, Shelley.
Was written, produced, and hosted by me, Shelley Danko Day. Original theme music is by Paula Breeze and Friends. Thanks for listening. See you next time.